Hey, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of What Is It Like to Be You? And so today, our guest is the beautiful and amazing, and I can say that because I know her personally, Kae'Chauna Sinclair.
Hey.
Hey, girl, hey. I am so excited to have you as a guest on today. This is a newer podcast, so you
Mhm.
are guest number 3 for me.
Listen, that's one of my favorite numbers, okay?
I love
It's gonna
it.
be a good episode
It's
because
one
it's
of
a good
my favorites too. Yes. You know what? Anytime that I have you on is a good episode to me. So
Oh, thank
I
you.
absolutely I love your authenticity. I love your character. And so hopefully, this relationship will be ever budding and
Yes.
continual for a very long time. So without further ado, please tell us a little bit about Kae'Chauna. Who are you? What do you do? What you got
Oh,
going on?
thank you. Hey, everyone. So, my name is Kae'Chauna Sinclair. I am the owner and CEO of TLC for Me Services, which is a therapeutic life connections and coaching organization where I work with others, whether you are an individual, a business owner, a CEO, sit on a board, whatever, to make sure that you are actually doing what you say you want to do. So, more
Mm.
so holistic wellness, making sure that for my organizations who are all about the people and community, your board, your staff, everything mimics that, right? Teaching people how to put confidence in there. I'm also a master level clinician in the state of Georgia, working towards full licensure. So I also
Yes.
offer therapy services as well. I'm all about healing, okay? I
Me
am
too.
authentically myself. And that doesn't mean that I'm not always going through things, but I'm always healing. Okay.
I
And
love
so
it.
I push that to the world.
That's so beautiful. And this might be a super vulnerable moment, but I just realized that TLC stood for what you just said. Therapy. What was it?
Yes.
Therapy,
Therapeutic life
life
connections
connections.
coaching.
That's so funny. I never put that together before.
Yes, the
I
TLC is
love
an
it.
acronym, y'all.
I love it. And I love it because I am an acronym junkie. Like everything
Yes,
I do is an acronym just about. And so I don't know where that obsession came from, but I
it's
love it.
easier. It's simple.
It is.
People could read.
Yes,
Hmm.
I love that. So, on this episode, we have 35 questions. Now, we're not going to cover all 35 questions. However, I would like, because I live in Las Vegas, so I try to keep everything Vegas themed, I would like for you to pick a number between 2 and 34. So my question number 1 and my question number 35 are going to be the same. I'm going to ask you your first question without you picking a number. However, after that, I'm going to have you pick between 2 and 34. Sounds good?
Sound like a plan.
Okay, so my question number 1 is, when you look in the mirror, what is it that you see?
I see a amazing, beautiful, strong, empowered person. Yes, I am a woman, and yes, I am a Black woman, but most of all, I'm human. So I
Mhm.
see all of the things that I go through. I see all of the things that I experience, and it motivates me. It's empowering. I also see some of my flaws. I see the things like the fact that my nose is a little crooked, and I don't like that. I see, the crooked smile and the curve in my lips when I smile, but I embrace all of them. I see me for exactly who I am,
Yes.
Kae'Chauna.
I love that. It's so funny because I wanted to ask this question specifically because I notice myself when I look in the mirror sometimes, and although I think I'm beautiful and I think I'm amazing, I find myself picking out the flaws. Like, oh my
Yep.
God, I got a little pimple forming, or oh my God, like my teeth don't look as white as they should, or
Hmm.
whatever it is, right? I'm like, oh my goodness, my hair over here is doing it. And so I find that we do that often, and we're looking in the mirror, and some of us may or may not see the beauty or may or may not see how amazing we truly are when we're staring back
Hmm.
at ourselves, and we instantly gravitate toward the flaws. And so I thought it was important to ask this question because I really want people to start to focus more so and firstly on what their attributes are rather
Yes.
than what their flaws are. We all have flaws. Every single one. There
Right.
is not a single person on the face of this earth that doesn't have flaws. I don't care who you idolize. None of them are perfect, right? And so
Mm-mm.
that's kind of what the message is with that question. So, with that being said, please pick a number 2 through 34.
We're gonna start with 16. That's my favorite number.
Okay. I love it. Interesting because one of my favorite numbers is 17. Super
Mm.
close. So 16 says, can you share an experience that made you realize that you have more in common with someone who didn't look like you than you originally thought?
Yes. So it's not one specific experience,
Okay.
it's multiple. In my role as a clinician, I see people every day, all the time. Prior to working in private practice with adults and relationships in terms of family and couples, I used to work with kids a lot in residential. So I used to work at different, both in New York State and in Georgia, residential facilities for children where they are housed because of behavioral issues, mental health issues, etc. And in these spaces, I learned way more about my connection to children and their
Mm,
parents than I ever did in private practice. Don't get me wrong, in private practice, I see a lot that made me like, wow, I'm like
yeah.
you,
Yeah.
right? I'm not a very judgmental person. It's not my place. That's up to the big man upstairs. I don't have to do that. But I have always wondered, like, especially children, like, why are you here? And in residential, some of the children I worked with were in there for some of the most heinous acts, whether
Mm,
onto family members, peers, or themselves. So, sitting in spaces, we used to read their files so you know who you're working with.
yeah.
I was like a lot of the other staff members. I wasn't reading them to prejudge them. I wasn't reading them to now act different towards them because of what they did. I was reading to understand them. And there have always been different cases where some of these kids have done things you will never imagine a
Wow.
kid
Yeah,
doing,
doing. Yeah.
especially to another kid.
Yeah.
But in reading them, I was like, okay. So then I would interact with them with that in my mind. I'm like, wow. Like, granted, you did this and it's wrong. We're not okaying it. But like you did it because you didn't have knowledge. Like I remember not having knowledge about things as a kid.
Mhm.
I remember not really understanding why people would tell me don't touch the stove until I burnt my finger. I
Yeah.
understand what it was
Yeah.
like in interacting with their parents when they can't maintain kids at this stage. They can't interact with them this way. You often wonder, like, as people, we be like, well, you just did a bad job as a parent. But like when you talk to them and you listen to them,
Mm,
it's like, oh, you just overwhelmed. I get like that too. Wow.
yeah.
So there are always moments. There's never not, especially in my everyday life and my career, where I'm not really understanding how much I really have in common with people. I have sat across from murderers, child molesters,
Yeah.
um, children who act out sexually, children who have been incarcerated for violent acts and crimes. I've
Mm,
sat across neglectful parents, mothers who abandon their children, fathers who are absent. And I'm always able to find some form of, in essence, humanity in them because it's also in myself. And even in the moments when I can, I still find humanity in them because, like, I know somebody who feel like that. I know what it feel like to just, not know what to do. So you just do what you're supposed to do, and it don't always work out. So for
yeah.
me, there's always moments. Is we all, as long as people remember, we are all human. We all, when we cut each other open on the inside, it's all gonna come out the
It's
same
all the
color.
same.
We,
Exactly.
it's so easy
Yeah.
to
And it's so
see.
funny because that's really the basis of this program, right? It's just to
Mhm,
show that we're all the same. And it's so interesting to me how, like, even way, way back when the whole law was certain people were not fully, fully considered human or whatever the heck it was, some weird thing they had going on back in the day. I
mhm.
don't even know. Black people were like three, I don't even know what it was, what the numbers are. But anyway, and it's like if we stand side by side, if let's just say we put a black person, a white person, an Asian person, a Hispanic person, let's just say right next to each other, and we all look at ourselves in the same mirror, we all have two eyes, we all have two ears. Now, granted, there are some one off, some things that have happened, but we all have one mouth, one nose, two nostrils. We all have hair. The hair may look different and may be, different
Different
levels of
textures,
coarseness,
different colors.
whatever. Right. We all have that. We all have the same internal organs. We all pretty much have the same body structure, two arms, two legs, 10 fingers, 10 toes. You know what I mean? So all
Yeah.
of the things that make us a human being are all the same. We
Yes.
have different levels of melanin in our skin, right? We may have a different way that our voice sounds, a different accent, a
Mhm.
different, you know what I mean? Like we may speak a different language because of our geographical, where we are geographically. But in essence, we're all the same. We all
Yes.
bleed the same color. And I've drawn blood for the last 30 years. So let me just tell y'all, okay? I've drawn blood from every single race and from everybody from homeless to royalty. It's all the same.
Yep.
It all look the same, y'all. It's all the same color. Nobody's is different. It might be a little shade different based on what they eat or drink, but other than that, it's all the same.
Yes.
It's
It's understanding that, like, while we have so many differences, and trust me, there's a lot,
yeah.
we have just as many similarities. And it's all about us as humans, us as people, to not hyper focus on all that's wrong and more so on what's
Yes.
right. Because,
Exactly.
like, there are so many similarities that are positive that we could utilize, but we use the opposites to fuel a lot of the negative stuff, and that's part of the problem.
It definitely is the problem. So, prayerfully, though, as we continue on in society, as humanity continues to develop and technology continues to develop, hopefully it will be less divisive
Mm-hmm.
and more inclusive. And it feels like it has become more divisive over time as we have continued to grow, as the
Mm-hmm.
years have continued to progress. It feels more divisive. And I don't know if that is the addition of, social media and the different, technologies that we now have. I feel like a lot has changed since 2020 as well. When we went through, it seems like we went through a lot of traumatic experiences all at one time. So we had a lot of the racial tension going on, and we had COVID pretty much all happening at the same time.
All at the
And
same time.
yeah, and so it was a lot going on. And I think there were some other things going on as well. I think politically, there
Yep.
was election or something happening. So it was a lot happening all at one time. And so I think that since then, humanity has declined in the sense of compassion and empathy and those things that connect us. And I think that we have become more divisive in that process.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on that?
I think we definitely have. I think being, in the younger generation, I went from watching cell phones be based on minutes to unlimited data to
Mhm.
having Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all of that at your fingertips. Okay.
Yeah.
So I remember the freedoms as they changed. Right now, I'm not old enough to say I remember when they first came out with the first cellular phones,
I
but
do.
I remember when they first remember back when they had the old school Nokias and it was the texting. I know how to text a message with the buttons, okay?
Ooh.
But I also seen how it has shifted. And I think while the world is a lot more divisive, it feels almost like it's supposed to be. Because
Mm.
you have to first isolate, then grow. We had to first experience a very hard, traumatic 2020 to be here 4 years later. And we got AI, we got this new thing, even Nokia coming back. Okay. Like
Mm-mm.
we're seeing the world shift. And if we don't stop to assume it will be negative, it will naturally become that, like it did before
Yeah.
when social media became a thing. I'm old enough to see where Facebook started to where it is now. For Facebook to
Yeah.
be an entire metaverse where that's a thing, and you can virtually do different things. When Facebook first started, that wasn't it. It was corny. It was for the old folks, okay?
It
But
kind of
we've
still
seen it.
is.
It still kind of is. But those old folks used to be us, used to be me.
Yeah.
That's who's now sitting on there. So you see a transition. It does look different. It just looks more positive. I think the one way we can always, in essence, look at life is remembering it needs to be both. You need to have that kind of more device like led spaces, but you also still need the real in person human interactions. It's just how you portray them, how we put them out there. If we worked harder as a society to highlight more humanity even in the devices, you wouldn't see it happen in this very weird the robots are trying to get us and take us out kind of way. It only feel
Mhm.
like that because we've separated ourselves too much. Maybe we need to get closer.
It's so interesting that you just even gave me another perspective of you kind of have to divide in order to grow. I kind of
Yeah.
like that concept because I'm thinking about it from this aspect of just, you and I are both in healing spaces and wanting to help people heal and grow in their mental health, right?
Mhm.
And so I'm thinking about even myself. Um, when you are in a space of needing to heal, and I think that we were as a human society, you kind of have to take a step back and spend some time alone so that you can do the introspective work to fix you before you start building other relationships so that you can,
Mhm.
you can heal and you can grow so you can show up the best version of yourself. And I think that maybe our creator designed things for a reason to make people take a pause and just, take a step back and have to and be forced to spend time with yourself so that
Yes.
you could do some introspective work and figure out where it is that you have gaps that need to be filled mentally, physically, spiritually, whatever that looks like, so that when you do reemerge into society, you can show up a better version of yourself. Now,
Yeah.
I can't say that that happened for everybody. I can say what I've noticed is a lot of tension since then, and a lot of people on edge, and a lot of people doing things they may not have otherwise done. I have seen a lot of that. But on the flip side, I have seen some people reemerge into society better versions of themselves, myself included.
Right. And part of the reason that happens, right, is two things. No matter what you believe in, higher power, spirit, God, whatever, there is this real understanding that no matter what it is, had to experience it in all possible actions, right? No matter what.
Yeah.
The thing, whatever you believe in, created all of this for us to experience multiple different things at multiple different times. If that's the narrative you believe in and you follow, understand that there is peace in this chaos, right?
Yeah.
Understand that like we need to see a thing like COVID so that we can see a need. Because if y'all could dish out stimulus checks in this moment, why are there still people sleeping outside? So
Mm-mm.
if you can do these things, like we needed to see, like, oh, wait a minute now. This is an experience we can now see, right? The other side of that is you still feel tension. You still feel a lot of that animosity, that roughness, that anger that came in 22 and still is in 2020, and it's still here at 2022, and then again in 2024, and will probably still be here at 2026.
Mm-hmm.
You still see that thing because the reality is if that person, creator, etc., whatever you believe in, created it to experience in all facets, you think he's going to experience it in all ways of positive?
Exactly.
No.
No, there has to
The
be
people
balance.
who had the opportunity to isolate, they did isolate, but they isolated and they reflected and felt, realized they weren't the problem. They weren't the issue. It was everybody else. Even if they are in fact truly the problem, you got to understand. While some of us went in during that isolation and we grinded, we learned about ourselves, we
Mm-hmm.
healed, we talked to ourselves, we made love to ourselves, and not in a sexual way, but in a spiritual way, an
Mm-hmm.
emotional way. We nurtured ourselves. Yes, we came back into society and we're ready to show like, hey, the world can change, and here we are proof. But there are people
Yeah.
who sat in that space and tried, but because they don't know themselves, because they lack understanding of their own values and morals, they aren't content with where they are. They don't know them. They
Yeah.
look at us like, oh, you think you're better than people.
Yeah.
They look at themselves like, well, I still need to do this. That's where victim mentality, things like that come into
Yeah.
play. We have to understand that we all have a piece here. I tell people all the time, we need the people who are victims. We need the home wreckers. We need the women who are insecure. We need the men who don't provide for their families or show up for themselves. We need people who are struggling with mental health. We need people who struggle with insecurities and seeing the beauty in themselves. You need all of that because those are the people who help us now highlight the things that we sat in isolation and perfected. We made beautiful. You need people who don't understand what it's like to be themselves to show the people who do understand what it's like to be themselves how they can now reach that next step. So I don't look at the divide negative at all. I look at it very positively. You need it because the reality is history will repeat itself. It's just how
Mm-hmm.
it repeats itself. It's
That's
what you
true.
allow to be repeated. If we change that understanding and embrace like we still are human and don't gotta look one way, I navigate in a space where I'm not worried about what happens next. Not really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's so cool because my mom taught me when I was younger, it takes all kind of people to make up a world.
Yep.
And so, the world would be very boring if we were all exactly the same, like the same
Right.
thought processes moving at you think
I
robot
would not
then,
have
like
no
we would
job
be
if
like
people didn't have
robots.
anxiety and depression.
Exactly.
Okay. If
So
people
true.
did not sit and was reluctant and said, nope, I just want to deal with this by myself. If they didn't build onto these fed kind of, this is how you handle life, right? I tell
Yeah.
people all the time, I worked in the BIPOC communities for a reason. I understand what's being taught in those communities. I come from
Yeah.
what happened at home, stay at home. I
Me
come
too.
from suppress your emotions. You don't talk about that. Suck it up because boys don't cry and strong women just get things done. I know what that's like. If it wasn't for the people who actually believe these narratives deep down in the depths of themselves, I wouldn't have no job.
Yeah.
I wouldn't
Same.
have the opportunity to show them it's a thing. What they told you was accurate. Yes. But there's also another side.
Yeah. I
Let's explore
agree.
what that looks like. Without people who struggled with being themselves, I wouldn't be able to sit in this space authentically myself to say, this is how you do it. I wouldn't be able to sit here today to tell people what it's like to be me if the people who struggled knowing who they are didn't exist. You need them.
Yeah. Absolutely. You definitely do. I love it. Let's pick another number.
Let's do 13.
13 says, in what ways do you think your generation is misunderstood by others?
Oh my God, this is my favorite question. I love being asked this. Okay. So I am 26 years old. I believe I'm technically a part of Gen Z, if not the like millennials, whatever. It don't matter. Young folks are naturally just misunderstood, right? Even by ourselves. I see people sharing all the time, and it's a post and it says, this generation messed up loyalty with social media. This generation messed up marriage with this soft girl, provide for me kind of thing. This generation messed up like everything my generation did wrong, right? And I often sit with that. Like, is it that we did it wrong or like we showed you an alternative? Because while it's easy to say my generation is the reason why marriages are not lasting because we jump in them, but we also jump right out of them. My generation is the reason why healthy relationships exist. Because prior to that, our grandparents, even some of our parents stayed in marriages and they were unhappy.
Not
They
only
were struggling,
unhappy, they were struggling, they were getting abused, they were like,
getting
it was a lot
abused,
going on.
depressed,
Yeah.
heartbroken. So is
Mm-hmm.
it that like, wow, yes, the numbers look a little different, but like how are they mentally? Right? One of the biggest things about I think my generation is that we take the easy way out. No, we look at our options. We not just gonna apply it just because it's the norm, just because it's traditional. A great example of this is I'm engaged and I'm planning a wedding. And there's a part of my wedding that does not exist and will not. I'm very adamant about it. And it's the conversation of, when the person who's up there ordaining people and they're like, who gives this person, this woman away to this man? I don't want that in my wedding at all for two reasons. Historically, the nature of marriage was due to pay off a debt. So if we're going to go back to when marriage was started, the reason that you are asking me that is because my daddy owe a debt. I'm not a piece of things that you just give off because you fell behind on your payments. So we're not asking that. But on a deeper level, on a more societal level, right? It's to allow my father, who's been my dad my whole life, a great one at that, hey dad, right? Giving him that opportunity to say, I'm now handing my baby girl off to another man that I know will take care of her. I love that about it. That's why he's walking me down. But to ask that question, that's not happening. And a lot of my older family members are like, that's just so untraditional. That's just not it. But it's like, for us, for me and my partner, we understand on a deeper level, like we making a commitment to ourselves. I don't want it to be a dynamic of who's giving me away. So the question I'm asking the person who ordains us to say instead is asking both of our immediate family members to stand up and asking them, are they ready and willing to engage in this combination of two families joining? Because y'all got to get along. Y'all got to interact with each other. Me and my man already been in love for a long time.
Period.
We knew we was ready for this. So whether you are giving me away or not doesn't matter. The real question is, are y'all about to enter this next stage and make it easy for us like we've been making it easy for ourselves?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because most marriages die, diminish because of other people, i.e. immediate family. Your mama don't like that person.
Yeah.
His mama don't like you. They sister this, that, and the third.
Yeah.
I need to make sure if we're going to get married, every part of this marriage needs to be intentional, even down to what they asking us that day. So things like that, like to many people, that's just the easy way out. That way, if it don't work, you can't blame it on who gave you away. No, if it don't work, we can blame it on us.
Mm-hmm.
If it don't work, I can say, hey, look. But to have these things, I think we are so misunderstood because it feels like all we do is escape things, right? We quit to end a relationship, quit to cut a friend off. But
Shoot,
like
I've been like that though.
Exactly. It's just we do it very publicly. See, back in the day, it was very, I don't like Cheryl. Well, why you don't like Cheryl? Girl, she bought the little pancakes to the Sunday brunch when she should have bought waffles. Yeah, I don't like her. And now the old ladies at the church is just shading Cheryl instead of telling her out how you really feel.
Yeah.
We stand on, in essence, like they say, we stand on business now, and it rubs a lot of people the wrong way. I did an article on us in the workforce and why it's hard to see people my age and my age group stay at positions. It don't have nothing to do with us being lackluster, undereducated, unskilled. It don't have nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with we will protect our peace. I will quit a job so fast if I don't like the way my boss is talking to me because I've already asked you to stop speaking to me like that. After that, you don't respect me. I'm not sitting in no space I don't respect. But to a lot of people, we change jobs quick and we lack this and we lack that. Y'all stayed at jobs and y'all were getting treated like less than nothing. Yeah. Just to do what? To come home and have a Friday, Saturday, Sunday with your family and go back and do it again?
Yeah.
We understand.
And miserable, just miserable Monday through Friday.
Right. Like we not miserable. Granted, we have seen a lot. I tell people all the time, before you judge those who are sitting in spaces anywhere between 24 and 30, that age, before you say to us, y'all the reason the world messed up, think about what we've experienced. At 26, I have sat through domestic terrorism. I have sat through racism just like everybody before me. I have sat through literally feeling like my world was about to end. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. I was alive during year 2000 when they said that thing was going to blow up and we was going to be over. I was around when they said the Mayan calendar stopped at 2016 and we should end. And I was around when we hit 2020 and during that pandemic when, oh my God, the life is over. So before people judge my generation for feeling like all we do is rip and run, look at what we're running from, right? I shared a post the other day that said, I find it diabolical, right? Diabolical that the economy is going to mess now that we the grown-ups. Granted, we know, I've known my whole life. I was alive during the recession the second time, okay? Yeah. I know what it's like. But now as an adult, I'm sitting in these spaces and I'm like, wait a minute. This only keep happening because it's not us that's messing up the money, okay? Like we in this space where we not silent anymore. And I salute those who are older than me. I appreciate the things that they have left behind, but I need them to be open to accepting that this generation, the reason y'all don't like it and it feel weird and we rub y'all the wrong way is because we set a different standard for those coming behind us. We not taking the bare minimum, no matter what it is. Yeah. Granted, there is that side of my generation is divided. There's that little 50 who like, no, it's okay. We're just going to go whatever they told us to do. But for me personally, and those I align with, our generation is so misunderstood because we challenge the norm.
The disruptors. Y'all are the disruptors. And I love that though. And I feel like I've been a disruptor my whole life. And I'm way older, right?
Me too.
We talked about this. I'm old enough to be your mom. I have a child your age, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, it's like, I have always been that person. Like, I'm not getting ready to just accept whatever it is that you're throwing at me because you feel like I'm supposed to. Now, the flip side of that, because it has caused me to walk away from jobs, to walk away from relationships, walk away from marriages. So the flip side of that is I look unstable, right? Like I look like I haven't had any stability because I'm not getting ready to just accept any old thing and just like it. Like it's just not my personality to do that. Now, do I know how to stay somewhere and make that something? I absolutely do. But I'm also not going to just sit in a bunch of mess just because for the sake of say it and I'm stable, you
And
know?
it's so beautiful that you say that, because so many older people, even in my job, right? I work with most of my clients, if not almost all of them, are anywhere between 5 and 20 years older than me.
Mm-hmm.
Off rip. Now, there are those who are almost 30, but even them, you feel this hesitancy because they'll say things like, but like, that's not what we do. That's not who.
Mm.
Who said that that's not what you're supposed to do? When did it become a problem to say, no, I'm not doing that?
Yeah.
Sorry, right?
Yeah.
Granted, we all grew up with the respect your elders. You need to do this. If you
Yeah.
living with your grandmother and your mama and they still violate your privacy, tell them to stop. No, you can't. Look, same roof or not. After a certain point of time, we are now equals in society. We deserve that. We shake it up. And I don't mind. My whole life I've been disrupted. My entire organization is all about defying the odds authentically. So if I'm gonna be a messed up and y'all gonna tell me I ain't stable, I'm gonna be authentic in that. Sure is. So when you see it, you know, because that's what changes the world,
Yeah,
right? If
it
we
does.
never had those disruptors, and you have them, every generation has
Yeah.
them,
Yeah.
right? You were at one point part of the disruptors. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I used this reference earlier. When Crisscross and them came out with them reverse clothes, you know how many people, parents was looking at them like, this has got to be the dumbest. Oh God.
Yes.
The tag is on the neck. What is this?
Yeah.
But y'all disrupted an entire generation
Yeah.
with clothes. We've done it with clothes. We've done it with social media, technology, everything. And it feels easy to judge us, but to understand, like, look back at it. No generation don't had a little group of disruptors. At some point, we all become that. At 26, I sit on my front porch sometimes and watch the neighborhood kids run around, and I'd be like, this is too much noise. What is these little kids doing? What is that? What is, I don't, this is, right? Because like at some point I won't be the disruptor anymore. I will be watching the things that my generation, myself and my peers included,
Yeah. Put in
now
place.
would be,
Yeah.
yes, implemented,
Yeah.
watching it flourish. Oh, I
Yeah.
cannot wait.
I
It's
wish
just
that
in the
more
moment.
I wish that more people in your generation would get into like the political spaces and things of that nature where they can actually make some of the
The,
decisions because
we
these
don't
old
understand it though.
listen, these old fogies that's there right now are still stuck in the same mindset of how things are supposed to be and wreaking havoc, I feel like personally, and I won't get too deep
Yes.
into a political conversation because that's really not my lane, but just, and what I'm seeing
Me
is
too.
just we do need some disruptors in there and not in a negative way. Like we have some people in political spaces that are like just in there, cattiness, like a
Just
whole bunch of
screaming.
like just calm
Mm-hmm.
down. Like that's not what I'm talking about, but to make solid decisions based on forward thinking, right? Based on where society should be going as a whole,
Mm-hmm.
for the good of everybody, And so I would love for more people in your generation to get involved.
So this is what I would say, right? I received that because it came out of my mouth the other day. Somebody was like, "Y'all want to watch the debate?" And that my response, all jokes aside, was, I don't know. I don't know them. I'm not watching it, right? But I know who's debating. I know what's
Yeah.
going on. And I will say this: I challenge my generation, those who are listening and those who tune in, to learn. Because if it's one thing I'm holding myself accountable for, is the fact that I can't keep wanting to procreate in a world that I don't understand. I can't talk junk about how the old folks are sitting up there wreaking havoc on us and terrorizing us if I know for a fact that me at 26, my understanding of it stops at the 3 different branches.
Yeah.
That's it. Okay.
Yeah.
That's all I know. I know checks and balances, and that's it.
Yeah.
So I understand the importance of it, but I challenge, and this is the part I always say whenever people ask me about my generation, I challenge those ahead of us rather than shun us, rather than talk about how we don't know and we want to see change, but we don't understand it. Teach us how we do that. Because I promise you, I'm not understanding. I know that if I vote for people in the state I live in and then they put it into these places, etc., but I'm also not being reinforced with that when I then go to the polls and we watch the endings and it's the complete opposite. Because me and my friends be talking about it. We know who we going in there for, but yet we come out different. So help us, educate us, because we can't shake up these spaces and change them if we don't understand it. And I challenge my generation, even if you don't, do a little research, go out and vote because you need to. We do have a voice. It does matter. We just need help better understanding how to use it in that aspect.
Yeah, and I think the thing with that is, it's like you got to go get the knowledge, right? Like that's for all
Right.
of us, though. Like you got the knowledge is out there. We just
Yes.
have to go and get it. And I think that's where a lot of times we fall short, is that we want the knowledge to come knocking at the door. And then when it does come
You
knocking
gotta
at
get
the
up and go
door,
get
we
it.
ain't even answering the door. So, like,
Hmm.
you got to get up and go get the knowledge. It's
Right.
out there to have. And so, go get it so that you can better educate yourself. And then that might even open up another you know, piece of your mind of like interest or excitement for you, or develop some new passion in your life that you might be
Hmm.
like, oh my goodness, like I might want to go down this road. You never know what expanding your mind can open up for you. So that's
Man,
my encouragement as well. So let's pick another number.
let's do number 33.
33 says, what have you learned about yourself in the past few years that has surprised even you?
That peace is real.
Oh, honey.
Okay. Peace is real. Prior to hopping on, I had another meeting. We talk about vision on there. And one of the things she asked me was like my purpose. And I always tell people my purpose is, and it has always been the same, to walk authentically in the world and help other people do that. Right. That's what I believe my purpose is. Higher power, God, whatever you believe in done told me, I know it. Right. But in the last like few years, I always talk about wanting peace. And I did a 90-day cohort on impact. Okay. And I talked so much about peace in that it was this external thing. And I used the example. I felt like I was Sha'Carri Richardson and peace was right there. It was running and I was finna win. Because Sha'Carri, she fast. Okay.
Yeah.
She go. I'm like, I'm right there with it. And then me and peace get neck and neck right here.
Mm-hmm.
And then out of nowhere, it turns into Flash and just runs away from me. And I'm like, oh my God, I had it literally by the collar. And
That's good.
once I learned through that program, that 90 days, that peace is internal. It come from me. I got to create it no matter where I'm at. When I learned that, to say I've gone through half of the year with no burnout, I finished 2023, no burnout.
Mm.
Oh, powerful. So powerful because I'm like, wow, this is a thing, girl. Now all we need is a little bit of patience, girl, and you right there.
Yeah.
You up there because that's the reality. Like peace for me, I didn't think I could be a at peace kind of person. I didn't think I could walk in my peace, telling people, yeah, I'm not doing that. Why? I just don't want to. But
Yeah.
to do that was something I never thought. And so it shocks me almost every day when I wake up and I'm not burnt out. I'm relaxed. I'm at peace. Or I'm in spaces. I'm not the clubber. I'm not to go out. I don't even like a lot of big groups.
Yeah.
But one thing's for sure, two things for certain. If you follow me on social media, I was in California past weekend and I looked great.
Yeah, you
Right?
did.
I know. I look. Okay. But right, the piece that I didn't show people, the piece that only those at that retreat saw was me retreating at numerous of points. Hey y'all, I gotta go. Just walk off. And they knew what it meant because at the beginning of the retreat, I prepped my peers. Please, if I dip off, do not confine me. If your spirit say check on me, please go ahead and do so. But trust me, I'm okay. I'm in my room recharging because I gotta protect my peace no matter what. Granted, what we were doing was beautiful. All we did was heal. But healing is draining.
It's
It's
very
tiring.
draining.
It
Yeah.
takes a whole lot of energy. And when you is the literally the spearheader of like, I can help you fix that. You need this coping skill. Implement this. It's hard for your brain to not just help, right?
Yeah.
But like when it's all said and done, now I want time for me. I want my time. So really being a beacon of peace is something that has shocked my system in a way I'm so thankful for
Yeah.
because it's allowed me to walk authentically. I believe, and I said it in my last spot with you. Authenticity is the highest vibration. Like there's
Yes.
no higher way to vibrate than that. Trust me, I do it regularly because I'm at peace with myself. I'm at peace in a lot of these spaces. And if I'm not, I'm a creative. Won't
Yeah.
nobody irritate and overwhelm me no more.
Yeah.
I'm going to be in the corner. I'll see you in about an hour
Yeah.
because I need it. So that's the thing that shocks me the most is that I've learned truly how peace do not feel like it's at the coattails. It's in my pocket. We go
And I
together real
love
bad.
it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that too because I think a lot of what people don't understand a lot of times is that which you exude often overflows, right? And
Yeah.
so the people that are around you, like you were just saying, your peers in that particular retreat, like they knew, right? And so
Yes.
when you're exuding a certain quality, the people around you can feel that, and that will rub off on somebody else.
Yes.
I have an
It's a
organization.
beautiful thing.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No. I was agreeing with you. It's beautiful. It's
Mhm.
a beautiful thing to know it's rubbing off on somebody. Oh,
Exactly. Exactly. I have an organization, as you know, called Lilac, and it stands for Ladies Influencing Life Altering Change. And so one of the things is that, like, I ask people all the time, like, what change have you influenced in yourself and in somebody else? Right?
yep.
Because whatever change you're influencing in yourself, people are going to feel that it's going to overflow. Your cup is going to overflow onto that, and then onto them, and then they're going to learn how to start walking in their peace, right? It
Hmm.
becomes a ripple effect. And so, how you show up in the world is very important. How you treat yourself is very important because you're going to train somebody else on how to treat you. But in that process, it's also going to teach them some things about themselves that they may
Yeah.
need to uncover and learn. And then that just continues to ripple on down. And so, I think that's amazing.
It's a beautiful thing. And what I'll share is this: at the retreat, one of the things we talked about is women and what we do, because it was all women.
Mhm.
And I said, and this is the gym I'll give. I ain't gonna drop a lot of gyms this time. Last time I was here, I did like
You
45. I'm
did.
only do like 10 this time. But this gym is the more we pour into ourselves, the more we put ourselves in spaces where there are like-minded people, right? Especially women. In these spaces, we now then go back into ourselves, give it back, fill it up. And then we fill it up and pour it into our men. And then they give it right back.
Yeah.
And it goes back and forth, right? And there is nothing more powerful when you in that space and peace is in there. Like when
Yes.
you got so much peace inside of you that you pouring it back in. Oh, I love telling people, you be arguing? Oh no, I would have walked
Mm-mm.
away.
Yeah, don't do that.
Mm-mm.
Mm-mm.
I would, sorry. Because like I know I got it. It's overflow. Dr. Tiana Rogers is one of my faves. I love her. She said it best. She taught me to change that view. We always say you can't pour from an empty cup. I no longer say that because of her. Because you should never be pouring from an empty cup. It should always be overflow. I never, no matter what it is, even with my fiance, you'll never catch me tapping into my own reserve unless truly necessary. And in the moment, it's very, very necessary. That means I've already gave out too much of my overflow.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a problem. You should never do that. And when you know that what you are giving into yourself, it just come out and you can help other people change. Oh, it's a beautiful thing. That's
Mm-hmm.
why working on ourselves is so important. Navigating and understanding peace
Yes.
changed my life and the lives of the
Yes.
people around me, and I know it did.
I love it. And you got to be open to receive that and do that every day because you never know what you
Right.
might hear on any particular day that might shift something in you to spark change. And so every day you should take time to reflect on that day and figure out, what your next move is because whether it's meditation or whatever that looks like for you. Sometimes for me it's just laying in the bed a little bit longer,
Yep.
prayer, all those things. And so journaling, right? Like whatever that looks like for you, every day take time to sit and focus on you, do some introspective work so that you can see literally what it is that you're dealing with in that moment and how you're showing up in the world in that moment so that if you do need to make a couple of changes or pivot a little bit that you're able
You
to
know
do
what to
so and
do.
you can recognize it so that you're not allowing something negative to fester. So I
Yes.
think that's so important.
I agree. I agree. That was a good question. That was
Yeah,
good.
I like
Yeah.
that question. Let's pick another.
Um, 26.
26 says, how do you handle vulnerability, both personally and publicly?
I answered this question before. It's similar. The last time I was here, I embrace it. I am a firm believer that you need to be vulnerable to grow.
Yeah.
That's it. You do. You need it. Okay. People say it all the time. Vulnerability and comfortability go hand in hand. That is not always true because if I'm extremely comfortable with somebody, I don't got to be as vulnerable with them no more. I can give them the bare minimum and they will suffice and that will be enough. Uncomfortability and vulnerability are really what go hand in hand.
Yeah, that's what I
Because you
think.
gotta be vulnerable. To be vulnerable, oh my, you opening yourself up in a way that you don't want nobody else to know. And it's uncomfortable. So how, when I hear people say, no, vulnerability and comfortability go hand in hand, I look at them like, I don't think you know what those mean, they contradict each other,
Yeah,
right? To be vulnerable by default is immediately
very,
uncomfortable for
very
anybody.
uncomfortable.
How does that go hand in hand? It don't,
Yeah.
And so I personally embrace moments of uncomfortability and vulnerability. I'm always vulnerable. I'm always navigating in some facet of uncomfortable, right? And a great example of this, I'm a gamer. Okay, thanks to my dad. I
Okay.
like video games. And PC games have been something I'm just starting, to get into. And one of the PC games that I tried with my fiance, you can play Grand Theft Auto online. And when I started, I was like, this is not for me. No. Okay, because I've created my character, I hopped on, and I don't do very well in social settings. I don't like a lot of social interactions,
Yeah.
right? I don't like talking to a lot of people. And so as soon as I hopped on this, you can talk to anybody who was ever on the server at that
Yeah.
time. So I load in and I hear a bunch of men. And I know they was black men because I could hear it in their voice. They sound like kings. And all I hear was, yo, yo, yeah. And I froze. I was like, oh my God, I don't want to do this. And I closed the game. No, quick, quick, quick. And
Wow.
we talked about it. Me and my fiance talked about it. And I said to him, that was very uncomfortable. And he was like, why? I was like, because I'm for the last almost 5 years, you've always been next to me. So men don't talk to me like that. Men don't greet me like that. For the last 5 years, my interactions with men have been, hey, how you doing? Literally. But in that space, I had to get real vulnerable. And so I didn't play that day. But we went on, we talked about it, and I reflected with myself and then with him. And the next day I was like, I want to do it again. Because now I'm vulnerable. Like now I'm gonna push myself. I was uncomfortable, now I'll be vulnerable again. So I played again. And when they responded, I talked to them. I engaged, I learned the game. And I was like, this is a perfect moment of why you need to be vulnerable, but you first got to get uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You got to be able to do it because when I did it, now I'll be like, I like this. I can play this.
Yeah.
I be on the game sometimes, doing my game stuff. Right. But I learned that vulnerability was so important. If I never felt uncomfortable and then vulnerable with my fiance, I would have never got to the conclusion that, wow, he provides a lot of extra safety that I'm not realizing I don't see in the world anymore. I'm now vulnerable enough to say, you know what, I want to try it again because I actually like this game. I want to be uncomfortable. And I always, every time one of the other people in the game starts to talk to me, I instantly get a little anxious. But I push past that and I become vulnerable to communicate back with them.
Yeah.
Because you need to. That's how you play the game. In order to get through the game, you can't not talk to them. Okay. Right? So I talk to other people and they're teaching me how to go find this or what job I should try to get a little bit more money, where to go to do this. It teaches me how to always be vulnerable. Because as much as I don't like talking to other people, I have to do it. It's vulnerability. So I display my vulnerability all day, every day, all the time in numerous of ways because there are so many things I don't enjoy doing or like to do, but because I'm vulnerable, I engage in them all the time. I navigate constant uncomfortability sometimes. It helps be vulnerable.
I think that the point that you're making is so important for people to grasp and to understand. And that is that growth happens on the other side of uncomfortability.
Yes.
And so you just demonstrated that even with your gaming reference, right? Like you had to be vulnerable, you had to get uncomfortable, but you learned so much in that process about the game. And I think that's everything in life. And so there's no growth in comfortability.
No.
You can stay there if you want to, but you're going to be stagnant, right? You
Literally.
have to learn how to push yourself and get through things that you may not otherwise like or enjoy.
Yeah.
In order to learn something new, and in order to, get past that point to the next phase of life, the next great thing that, I believe in God. So for me, the next great thing that God has for me, right? Like I have to be able to push past some things in order to get there. Like right now, I have a lot that I'm working on. Like I'm building a board for my nonprofit. That's a very scary place for me to be because I'm a control freak. That's why I've been doing everything myself. But I don't necessarily trust other people to do things the way that I want them to, right? So it's very scary for me right now to build my board of directors. Very scary. Like people wouldn't even believe
Oh, I believe it.
how uncomfortable it is to be in the process of doing that. I'm also reaching for another one of my dreams that has been my dream since I was very young is, stepping into the world of like film and media and creating some movies and writing scripts for that and like, potentially acting as well. And so these are all spaces of uncomfortability for me. That I don't know anything about any of these things, but I have to step into that space so that I can learn and grow. And that's the way for me to attain my dreams and goals, for me to reach
Yes,
those things, right? And
getting
so I
uncomfortable.
have to get uncomfortable in order to do it. If I could stay right where I am, I'm comfortable hosting podcasts and I'm gonna continue to do it, right? I'm comfortable having these conversations with people. In fact, I love this. I enjoy it immensely, right?
Right.
But there's so much more to be done in the world.
Yep.
And so
It don't stop there.
regardless of what the fears are, you got to continue to push past them. Like, that's that saying, feel the fear and do it anyway. I'm a big proponent of that because the fear, we're human. And even though I don't believe God gave us the spirit of fear, we still have it. It came to us, right? And so we're human and we're going to feel fear about different things. That's fine.
And it's not even fear, it's
Acknowledge it.
apprehension. It's
Yeah, but
apprehension.
whatever it looks like for you, acknowledge
Mm-hmm.
it. Okay, yep, I see you there. That's cool. Come on, let's go. And we're
Right.
still moving forward, right? Like, don't allow it to keep you stagnant and keep you in a place of living your very, very short. We get one little short time to be here, right? That little dash, that's it. And whatever that looks like for each of us, regardless of whether we live 40, 50 years or 80, 90, 100 years, it doesn't matter. It's still a short little dash, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if we live that entire time in the space of fear and being comfortable and not wanting to progress any further because we're afraid to, or we don't know, so we don't know what's over there, so we don't really want to go look over there. If we operate from a space of that, life is going to pass us by so quickly and we're not going to have really lived. We're not going to experience
Right.
anything. We're not going to attain any dreams and goals. We're not going to do really anything with the life that we're given. And I think that's such a waste.
Yes. And this is what I'll do. This will be the second gem, right? I always, when we talk about vulnerability and comfortability, I tell my clients, whether coaching or therapy, comfortability breeds stagnancy. Okay. Comfortability breeds stagnancy. If you don't believe me, think about the diamond making process. If you don't know how diamonds are made, watch a video. It's rocks and they undergo an immense amount of pressure, right? In our world, you got real diamonds, then you got that cubic zirconia. Still kind of like a diamond, but it ain't the top tier, right? What's different between the real diamond and the cubic zirconia? Most people don't know the answer, so I'll tell you. The amount of pressure put on one. That's number one. Number two, if you believe in the idea of feelings and things can feel, comfortability, uncomfortability. The cubic zirconia stopped at where it was comfortable. That's too much pressure. I'm good right here. This is enough. But the real diamond, it took the extra mile. It said, all right, this is uncomfortable. The next step is vulnerability. Let's do it. And
yeah, I want to shine as brightly as I possibly can.
Right. Before you know it, a beautiful diamond has come out of this rough. And it's because vulnerability and uncomfortability make some of the best moments in our lives. Yeah. So when I tell people, if you really think vulnerability is something you struggle with, ask yourself the real question. Are you comfortable being uncomfortable? Because if you aren't, then at the end of the day, accept that you walk around here like a cubic zirconia. You stopping yourself from shining as bright as you could. Don't get me wrong, the cubic zirconias are great. They're great stepping stones before you can pay for the real diamond. They're cute. You need them. They look good. But if you know deep down inside that you just presenting as a cubic zirconia, put yourself back underneath that pressure. Get uncomfortable again. Be vulnerable and come out the real life diamond you're supposed to be. I have it tattooed literally on the back of my neck. It says diamonds are forever, because no matter what, I will always undergo the pressure. I will always be vulnerable. Uncomfortability and me go together just like me and peace.
Same.
Because I know I need it.
Yep.
I leave that with get uncomfortable and be vulnerable. If you are comfortable, you are now beginning the process to stagnancy. Stop yourself. Because you can get comfortable for a second, but you don't got to stay there.
That's right.
Because the reality is, once you reach your peak, everything around you will start to naturally feel uncomfortable because it's so comfortable. You're going to get so uncomfortable in comfortability. You're going to just be like, this kind of weird. And keep going.
Yeah.
That's how it's supposed to be.
I love it. I love your diamond reference as well. So
thank you.
And the reality is we need cubic zirconians, right? So not everybody is gonna become a diamond. And that's fine. That's fine because sometimes the people around you can only afford a cubic zirconium. Not everybody can afford real diamonds. And so you got to figure out what level you want to be at. And whatever level that is fine.
Yes, it starts with inside. I know a lot of cubic zirconia people. I love them to death.
Yep.
I don't judge them, and I will rock them side by side because that's where they're comfortable and uncomfortable at the same time. People forget that. You need the cubic zirconians because they know that, like, this is my peak, baby. I'm very uncomfortable here. The fact that I even got a little sparkle, whoa.
Yeah,
but then there are the people like myself, the people like a lot of my other peers who are like, I've been to cubic zirconia. Don't get me wrong. At 26, I know I'm still in my pressure. I'm in my pressure process right now. I know that. But when I was 22, cubic zirconia, please, thanks. This is me. Hey, how you doing? Because I was already uncomfortable. That was a lot happening back then for me. This was no. But you gotta when it becomes an internal conflict, that's when you know you gotta go back and do the work. The cubic zirconias, they're great in the world. I love them. They matter. We need them.
Yeah.
But they're not in the space like the people who could be diamonds. They're not in an internal conflict. They're not still judging. And I do believe for every cubic zirconia comes a diamond. All you got to do is be willing to go back in that pressure when you know you need to. Yeah. That's the difference. So I want people to take that with them. Know when it's you no longer ready to be, you done. You've been a cubic zirconia for 30 years. You over it. Go back in there. Come out a diamond because you don't have to stop there. That's just your peak. Because you're right, we only got that little dash, but there are so many ebbs and flows in that dash. You can come back so many times.
So many times. And it's funny because I think people don't realize that they have the ability and the capacity to start over. Sometimes you just have to start over. I just had to start over in 2022 at, I think I was 48 years old at the time. Like or 47, turning 48, something like that. Anyway, I had to start completely over from scratch with nothing after my last divorce. Like I got into a space of being comfortable in that marriage where I didn't even really like normally prior to that, I would have myself set up to where like nothing could affect me. I'm gonna bounce right back. Like I'm gonna be good regardless of what happened. I didn't do that in this particular relationship. I allowed myself to be more comfortable in that space, relying on, the relationship more so. So when the relationship ended, I wasn't ready. Yeah. And so I had to start completely over at this big old age. And it was uncomfortable, right? I had to go back to zero. And look what happened. And now we're doing very big and amazing things in the earth from that. But if I had stayed stagnant and stayed in that place, none of these things would be happening. I would just still I would just be working a regular job, just barely trying to, just trying to get by.
Internal conflict.
All of that, right? Instead of allowing that pressure to continue to form the diamond that I know that I am becoming. And so that's just a small snippet of my vulnerable story. And
we love it.
I love being vulnerable. I truly do. It is uncomfortable as heck, but I love it because it allows me growth and it allows for somebody hearing me, for that seed to be planted in them so that then they can experience some growth.
Yes.
So for me, it's incredible.
Grow too.
Exactly. And because God told me when this journey first started for me way back in 2011, I think it was, that it's not about me. And so when I heard that, I was devastated because in that moment, I was being selfish with my own pain and my own trauma. And I was like, it is about me, right? Like everything that I went through, everything that happened to me and blah, 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 it was all about me, right? But I literally heard him speak to me and say, it's not about you. And I was like, what? But once I got through the understanding of that and started to see how my story started to help other people, I
It
was
made it
blown
a lot
away.
easier. Yeah.
Yes, blown away. So being vulnerable to me is amazing. Any opportunity that I have to do so, I do so because I know what it could mean to the other person.
Yes.
So thank you for that.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
we have time for you to pick one more number and then we'll go to our final question after that.
Okay. 7.
7, back to the beginning. 7 says, what's a personal struggle that you've faced that might surprise people who think that they know you well? Talking about
Ooh,
vulnerability.
right. Talk about vulnerability.
Hey,
Ooh,
hey,
okay.
hey.
Because I'm very open about my struggles, whether they're financial, my mental health, how I view myself, confidence, insecurities. So it's hard to pick one that I've battled. It's not. I know exactly which one. Even though I'm open about this one, no one knows how. Very few people know how deep. So one of the struggles I have battled with a lot is my journey to motherhood.
Mm.
I'm a godmother. I'm a dog mom, but I have yet to be a mother to my own child.
Mm-hmm.
And that has been one of the hardest struggles in my life. Not because, right, like I've gone through the test and the programs and all of this, because I'm very logical. So my mind is like, all right, if it ain't happening when I want it, let's go figure out what's the problem. Just to be hit with the fact that I'm not the problem. My partner not the problem. Ain't no problem. We good. It's just waiting, that patience.
Yeah.
And I've learned, I have it tatted on me for a reason, patience, because it's always been a battle for me. Because I'm very accustomed to, if I set my mind to it, it's mine.
Yeah.
If I visioned it, it's mine. If it's on my spirit, it's mine. If I heard it, it's mine. If I see it in my dreams, it's mine.
Yeah.
So anything I set my mind to, I've always accomplished. I've always achieved. It might not have been exactly when I wanted, but it always happened. And for whatever reason, motherhood is the hardest thing to truly remain in my full authenticity. That
Mm.
like that's still obtainable. It's just not what I wanted. And it's just like, bruh, so hard, right? Because it causes for so many people, children are like, oh my God, your life's about to change. But for me, it's like, yo, my life will change and only for the better.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I know it's gonna be a good change, so why I gotta wait for it? Like what I'm waiting on, right? And it's hard, but the struggle is dealing with the letdowns, right? When my body plays tricks on me,
Mm.
and my cycle is a week late, but out of nowhere, now I'm bleeding,
Here it
right?
comes.
Those signs of like, ooh, you should pee on the stick this time. That heartbreak that come with it every month is hard, and it's something that I battle with that a lot of people don't know, because I do talk about it. I have a lot of clients that I work with, a lot of women and men who have struggled with child loss, miscarriages, abortions, etc., even stillbirths, and pregnancy is always around me. Even as we speak right now, 3 people I know are pregnant, like just became.
Wow.
And old me would be so hurt, so jealous. I wouldn't even talk to him. But now I put myself in vulnerable spaces, and I told them the honesty, like, I'm very happy for you. While I feel indifferent on the inside for my own reasons, there's always happiness for you.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations. Right. But that struggle is so hard. There's so many people know, but they never know the full depths. So in this space, I'm being extremely vulnerable because it's made me self-harm. It made me have to tap back into some spaces that I ain't been in since adolescence. Okay.
Mm.
But it forced me to be vulnerable. It's forced me to learn how to cope better, to take my skill set and amplify it. It's what made me go back to therapy. I've always been in and out of therapy since my car accident, but I went back most recent because I'm like, wait a minute. I'm having some of the most intrusive thoughts I've ever had in my life.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, wait a minute. I be praying, I meditate. Some ain't helping because everything's giving me the answer I don't want to hear. In God's time, and it'll happen. When it's your time, it'll happen. And that's the struggle. It's not in not being a mom. The struggle isn't in the feelings. The struggle is in hearing people's true, kind words of, it'll happen in due time. I don't want to hear that. Don't do
Yeah.
it. zip it up, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like, I'm always waiting to hear that from somebody now because I need that constant reassurance because it will happen. Just
Mm-hmm.
like with licensure, just like with coming to Georgia, just like with making it to 21 years old. There was a point in my life where I was like, bro, I don't need to get there. I don't care. Like I'm not new to the experience, but it's the topic, it's the emotions. And so this is a struggle that I don't think anybody, when they hear this, be like, her? No. Yes. Like there have been times, especially oh, okay, there you go. There have been times, especially in I want to say maybe the last like year, maybe two, yeah, like last 2 years, where being in that space, I've had to ask for some help in ways I never thought I would ever ask for help again.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I had to get help to no longer have intrusive thoughts to self-harm because I'm beating myself up. I'm now asking for help because like I know the skills. I am a therapist. I do this. I'm a coach. But like I need somebody else to coach me. Help me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Help come in and don't allow me to do what I do best, which is therapy. Don't allow me to therapy myself and trick myself. Like help me. And that for me was a struggle. Very few people sat with me in because I don't, even my closest, I have a lot of close people I love. That's one piece I keep to myself almost always. It's just me, my mama, my brother, my man that know about these things. But I learned in these last maybe 2 years, that's part of the problem. I'm not talking about it enough with people. I'm not getting the help I need. I'm not voicing it. So that is a
Mm.
struggle that I have for maybe the last 3 years been navigating. And that first year and a half, oh, when I say ebb and flows, I mean that. It was
Mm.
hard. It was hard. Whereas now I understand what it means when people tell me in due time. And I want to hear that all the time because it's that reassurance that's like, yeah, you knew you exactly where you're supposed to be. It will
Yep.
happen.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And that's true. And I think that last statement that you just made is so powerful. You're right where you're supposed to be. And I want everybody to hear that. We all and I'm guilty of this, beating
Mm-hmm.
ourselves up, beating myself up for a particular, thing. Again, I'll be 50 years old at the end of this year. And, you get to a certain stage in life and you feel like you should have accomplished so much more. And I've
Right?
accomplished a lot, don't get me wrong. I have degrees, I have, licenses, I have accomplished a lot. I've reached thousands of
Mm-hmm.
women with the things that I do. I have accomplished a lot. I have 8 published books. There's a lot I have accomplished, but there is still always that,
The things you ain't get yet.
yeah, I should be somewhere further along.
Yeah.
I should be, um, like, I have never owned a home. That's my
Me
vulnerability.
either.
I've never owned a home. And there are moments in my life where I look back like, why didn't I buy a house at that time? Like I could have, but I just never did. And so so that's one thing that it's like, why have you not, why are you not there yet? Why
And
don't you
it's
own your own
hard.
house at 50 years old?
It's
You
so
know,
hard
it is.
because you feel that. And the hardest part, and this is why I was happy to share this struggle, because what makes it even harder, right? I'm only 26.
Yeah.
And the stigma, part of the biggest reason I know, and this is why it was hard for me not to beat myself up, is as a teenager, it happened, but it also didn't happen.
Mm.
As a teenager, I was in spaces where it was very able. I could have been a mom early. But like that statistic, that stigma, because that's what they told me I was gonna be. You gonna be a single mom. You gonna be a young mother. You gonna
Yeah.
be a teenage mother.
Yeah.
Like I wanted to defy those odds. And in some of my darkest spaces with this struggle, I've sat and asked myself, like, is me really wanting to defy the odds so much part of the problem? I went from
Mm.
being a girl who used to voice adamantly. You could ask all of my friends that knew me in college and teenage years. I'm gonna be the rich auntie my whole life. Okay, I'm gonna pick the babies up and give them back. Okay, bougie godmom whole way through. Come get your kids, because I never wanted that. But I also never wanted to be in love. I also never wanted to be a wife. And as these things in my life changed, so did my desire to be a mother.
Yeah.
And it's always so hard to not now hold myself to my own time clock. Because at 26, most of my peers are on their second kid.
Mm-hmm.
At 26, though, like the things I've accomplished, the things I've amassed, right? And it's just like, but like I ain't got no babies yet. But like I got dog babies, I got god kids, but I ain't got
Mm-hmm.
my own babies. And
That's
it's
okay.
always hard to not like hold myself to that. but you're not where you're supposed to be. No, like, yes, I am.
Yeah.
I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. I'm right at that cusp where I'm not where I want to be financially or career-wise, but I'm right where I need to be, because I always told myself, no matter what it is, if I ever have kids, I never want to have them when I'm completed. I want to have them when I'm in that middle, because I want them to see what completion gets you, what hard work gets you. But I also don't want them to see all of the rough struggles. That's why as a teenager at 17, 18, having kids didn't make sense, right, to me. And it's always reminding myself that while I feel like I'm not where I need to be, I'm exactly where I'm supposed
Where
to be.
it's supposed to be. Yeah.
Exactly.
I love that. I love,
Yes.
love it.
That was a good question. That need to be the one you be asking the people all the time. That one right there. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So my final question to you is, what legacy do you want to leave behind, and how are you working toward it?
Oh, no, that's actually a great one. Oh, all right. I want to leave the legacy of authenticity. I want my children, I want the generations who come from me and the generations that come after me that I impact, and even now, the people I touch and interact with and talk to understand the importance of authenticity. We all talk about it, whether you spiritual or you believe in the universe or it's God or whatever it is, no matter who or what you are, everybody know being authentic is the most valued thing. People pay for that. Okay.
Yeah.
There is a career called a publicist, where there's a person who literally makes sure that all of the authentic parts of you show, even if that's not who you really are. Like, authenticity is important. It's powerful. And the legacy I want to leave is to always walk in that. That's why God told me it was my purpose. I know, because I gotta let people understand it don't, even if your authentic self is an evil spirited person, own it. Be that, because you got to lie about it, lead people on, hurt their heart and feelings. You're never gonna get far. Even if you are a evil spirited person, negative spirited person, victim mentality kind of person, mean person, it doesn't matter. If you own it, own it. Because even in bad, the things that are meant for you will happen when you own what you are.
Yeah.
Right? The saying is, trust a thief to steal, trust a snake to bite you. You need people to navigate authentically, even if it's negative, because that's where it goes. So that's my legacy, and I'm working towards it in everything I do. That right there, that prosperity tree is so important because it's authentic. The only way to truly get to prosperity is to first be authentic, because in authentic comes abundance, comes understanding, comes healing, comes trust, self-love, self-acceptance. You limit the doubts you leave yourself, you limit the insecurities, all of that now becomes true because you are in fact authentic to you. And so I work towards it daily, showing up, right? Like I talked about being in Cali. I did a lot of new things, posting my body in a two-piece bathing suit. Authentic all day. I would have never did that 3 years ago. I probably would have never did it 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I probably would have never even did it a year ago. But like, to do that, to walk in spaces amongst women twice. I've sat in spaces where multiple women have been 3 times my age. Literally 3. I'm like, oh my God. But I sat in it because they too need to know what it's like to be authentic. They got so much knowledge on them, and I'm just an old frail person. No, you ain't.
Probably more so than a lot of the younger people, because they were taught not to be authentic because they have to protect their image and how they show up. And so regardless of what they're dealing with and what they're going to, that's a part of that whole what happens at home stays at home mentality. Yeah. And so you got to show up a different person, right? Yeah. Or either like me, going through a lot of trauma, and you develop like the survivor person that actually shows up for you. And the real you is kind of hiding behind that person. So there's a lot to that. That's a whole separate show. So authenticity.
Yes, that's how I do it. On that legacy. Be authentic. That's when people hear my name and things like that. When they ask about who I was, I want people to tell them I was the greatest to ever do it. Not because of what I did, not because of who I knew, not because of what I looked like. I was the greatest to ever do it because you can always say I was authentic. Always.
That's
always.
beautiful. I love it. So
That was a good question. That's the reason it's the last one. That's good.
yes, ma'am. I love it. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for being here and being a part of this podcast. I
Thank
truly
you.
appreciate having you. Please let the people know if they want to work with you or if they just want to connect with you in some way, how can they go about doing that?
Yes. So you can follow me on Instagram and TikTok at kae.sin.tlc. On Facebook, it is my name, Kae'Chauna Sinclair. And I'm currently open for any speaking workshop engagements. I have a tea party July 27th. It'll be in Covington, Georgia. Tickets
Nice.
are on sale, so by all means, come pop out. It's a tea party all about wellness. I'm covering sexual wellness, spiritual wellness, mental wellness, physical wellness. Oh yeah, I'm
Wow.
showing out for my ladies. Wellness is not just shopping and getting our nails done. It's so
Yes.
much more. So there's that. I host a virtual workshop on the 13th. It's also in person. It'll be in Jonesboro, Georgia, if you're in person. If you want it virtual, it's also virtual. It's a 2.5 hour workshop where I'm teaching you all about confidence. They didn't want the long 5 month cohort. They said we can't commit to 5 months. So I shortened it down into a workshop. All of that is on my Linktree. So in any of my bios, if you just click the link that says Linktree, it'll show you my media deck, my merch, past interviews, workshops, etc. And there's forms for you to fill out if you would like to work with me.
I love that. Well, again, I thank you so much. This has been a great time talking with you. And I look
Thank
forward to
you.
having you back in the future and we'll talk some more.
Yes, thank you so much.
Indeed.
See
All
ya.
right. Everybody, we'll see you again next week. Bye.
Bye.